morning. Today we are going to see software testing unit 13. In previous model we have studied about V model, and V model is nothing but the extension of waterfall model, where we are going to give more focus on the testing as well as the phases of the waterfall model. So these all are combined in this V model. So in today's video we are going to study about modified V model and incremental model. Modified V model. So this is the same V model only, but little bit small changes they have done in this modified V model. Like the V model has various types of testing like unit testing, component testing, integration testing, and so on. The same these types of testing are considered as phases of testing in modified V model. Only that is the difference. You can see in this diagram, this side these are a part of V model, that is unit testing, component testing, integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. Okay, and this side you can see we consider it as a phases of testing. Okay, and these types of testing and these phases of testing are determined by entry criteria and exit criteria. Okay, so we call there is a unit testing phase, component testing phase, and so on. These all we call it as. Okay. Once a unit has completed the unit testing phase, it becomes part of a component and enters the component testing phase, and then moves to the integration testing phase and so on. Okay. So whatever you have completed in unit testing, it becomes a part of a. So you can see here entry criteria, that means unit testing phase is going to begin now. Okay, and once it is completed, okay, it becomes part of a component testing. Okay, and it also exit criteria, you can see here. So this is also exit criteria. It shows that all your testing activities are completed. And you are moving forward to the next phases. Okay, so whenever you are entering from one phase to another phase, it is determined by entry criteria. That means you are going to begin that phase. Okay, and the end of that phase, it is like a beginning of a new another phase. Okay, as you have seen in the waterfall model, V model, you cannot begin another phase unless you complete the previous phase. Okay, so entry criteria indicates it is the beginning of a new phase, and exit criteria indicates it is a end of that phase. Okay, this is one example. You can see we have taken here one example, requirement analysis phase. So what is the entry criteria for this requirement analysis phase? That is requirements document available. Okay, so you are gathering the requirements and you are going to document it. Okay, so based on that requirements document, you are going to analyze the requirements, which requirements are correct, which requirements are not correct, and then you are going to find out acceptance criteria. That means what is the client's acceptance criteria, what are the expectations and all. Okay, so based on the requirements document, you are going to analyze the requirements, and then what activities you are going to perform in these phases. Same, you are going to analyze that. Okay, which functionalities are important, which functionalities are not important. Okay, identify all transactions, identify user profiles. Okay, identify which type of test you are going to perform, and you are also going to prepare requirement traceability matrix here. Okay, so these are all activities you are going to perform in this phase. Once this is completed, then what is the exit criteria of this phase? That when you come out of this phase, you should have requirement traceability matrix with you and test automation feasibility report. Yes, what are you going to test? That report. Okay, so when you are going to do requirement analysis, you should have requirement document available with you, and when you are coming out of this phase, you should have requirement traceability matrix and test automation report with you. Okay, so this is what it is needed in deliverables. You can see this is what needed, entry and exit criteria. Okay, you can also see this another example, test case development. This is the what you are going to do. What is the entry criteria for this? Yes, Even for this entry criteria is requirement documents and requirement traceability matrix you need here, and some automation analysis report. And what task you are going to do, what activities you are going to perform here, create test cases, create design. Okay, so these all you are going to review and all. So what is the exit criteria here? When you're coming out of this phase, what you should have? You should have a reviewed and signed test case script. Okay, and reviewed and signed test data. Okay, so these are the deliverable test cases and test data must be there with you in this phase. So this is what you're going to analyze in modified V model, entry and exit criteria of each phase. This is what we have seen in the modified V model. Now next we'll see incremental model. Now we'll see incremental model. Okay, in this model, when you gather the requirements, so after gathering the requirements, you are going to divide those requirements, or you are going to separate those requirements into modules or sub modules, and later on you are going to take those modules one by one. Okay, each module you are going to take and you are going to analyze it properly once more with the requirements, which requirements are needed, which requirements are not needed, and then you are going to design it based on those requirements, and after designing you are going to start coding and then test it. So same process you are going to do for each module. So this is what incremental model. So the incremental model is a method of software development process where the software requirement is broken down into many modules in the software. Each module is developed by following the software development lifecycle process like analysis, design, code and tested incrementally until you reach the final product. Okay, so on each module you are going to apply this SDLC steps: analysis, design, code and tested, and you are going to repeat these steps until you reach the final product. So after validation of first increment, then a plan is developed for the next increment. Okay, once you complete the module, then you are going to go for the second module. Okay, so then afterwards you are going to move to the next module. So each increment you are going to apply analysis, design, code and test. Okay, and after doing that you are going to plan for the next steps. The plan addresses the modification of the core product to better meet the needs of the customer and the delivery of the additional features and functionality. Okay, so in the next increment you are going to keep on repeating these increments until you reach the final product. So this is the diagram of incremental model, like analysis, design, code, test and increment 1. The same process you are going to use for the next increment and similarly third increment. So this all steps you are going to repeat until a final product is finalized. Okay, you can see another diagram here. You can also call this as the build. Okay, this is build 1, build 2 and build so on, build 3 and so on. So design and development, testing, implementation. So this is done for each module. Okay, and then a final product will be ready. Okay, when to use the incremental model? Yes, this model can be used when the requirements of the complete system are clearly defined and understood. Okay, this is because you are going to divide the requirements, or you are going to separate the requirements into modules or the sub modules. For this you need to understand the complete requirements of the system. Major requirements must be defined, as which are the very important requirements, at least that must be defined. Some details can involve with time, as other requirements can involve with time when you proceed further. Next is there is a need to get a product to the market early. Yes, when you want to launch the product in the market early, you can go for this model. A new technology is being used, as when you are using the new technology and you are understanding it and then developing it, that time you can go for this model. Resources with needed skill set are not available. Okay. There are some high risk features and goals. That means there is some risk involved in the software project, like some features which are not uh, okay, you think that are very complicated, okay, and very difficult to fulfill. Then you can go for this. Advantages of incremental model. This model is more flexible, less costly to change scope and requirements. It is easier to test and debug during the small iteration. In this model, customer can respond to each build. Okay, so on each build, the customer can respond as each build after analyzing, designing, coding. Each build you can show it to the customers. Lowers initial delivery cost. Okay. Easier to manage risk because risky PCs are identified and handled during iteration. Okay, as I told you, the requirements are divided into modules, sub-modules. So because of this, you will understand which units, which modules, which sub-modules are risky and which are very complicated and all. So what can be the disadvantage? Needs good planning and designing. Yes, obviously it needs good planning and designing to divide the requirements into separate sub-modules and modules. Needs a clear and complete definition of the whole system before it can be broken down in and built incrementally. Total cost is higher than waterfall model. As if you compare to the waterfall model, it is bit costly, but overall it is very flexible and uh, less cost to implement if you compare with any other models. So we have completed modified V model and incremental model. So in the next session, we'll see with a new topic. Thank you.